Now, it has been over a year since presenter and friend of the show, Fiona Phillips, shared the news that she was living with Alzheimer's disease. And yesterday, she shared this new picture and announced that she's releasing a book in July, and it's called Remember When, chronicling her life since diagnosis. Fiona said, "I hope this book can show people a little about what it is like to live with Alzheimer's, how frightening and confusing it is, but also how much life can still bring joy and be valued." And it's a very deliberate emphasis there, Jane, I think, on saying, yes, devastating news, but there can still be joy and value. And I think that's important, you know, for individuals and families.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why, you know, you use the phrase there, it's important, and it's what all the charities try and do, is say, we call it living with dementia, because life does still go on. And yes, there are it's a very shock diagnosis for somebody to get. You know, my mum has got it, and obviously I was very close to Barbara Windsor when she got her diagnosis, and it is a shock at the time, but, you know, once you process it, they are still around, and there are pockets of, obviously, great difficulty, but there are also great pockets of joy, and I still have a lot of pockets of joy with my mum. Some days I go and see her and she's not really very talkative, and she might be a bit, you know, sleepy or whatever. But other days, she'll suddenly start talking about her childhood, or she'll say something really funny.
When I came with you to see her, she was really funny. She was very entertaining. She's very like Jane. Yeah. A bit scary.
She never had much of a filter, but it's completely gone now. But, yeah, so, you know, we all still, you know, when she comes and have lunch with us and stuff like that, and she's at the head of the table, and she's very much part of the family, the head of the family, and we have really lovely times. And I think also, because you know that, and, you know, she's 93 now, so it's life, isn't it, that you're going to lose somebody of that age. But I think it's particularly difficult when you get the diagnosis when you're still relatively young.
Yeah, and it's getting that balance in a conversation, isn't it? Because, of course, you want to look on the good times that you can still have. And, you know, my dad also had that diagnosis, but it's tough. I mean, you can't get away from the fact that it's tough. And I think particularly with early onset dementia, there's a life that you expected to have, there's a life that your family expected to have, that your partner expected to have as a partner, and obviously that relationship changes. And I think a lot of the book that Fiona and her husband Martin are hoping is that also it will extend into giving something to the family around and kids and things. So you can't get away from the fact that it does throw a grenade into what you expected life to be. But I guess all illness does that too.
Yeah, I think my dad got diagnosed when he was 57. So you can, he'd just become a granddad. So
that was lung.
It was lung cancer. In 2007, he died of lung cancer, and there we are. See that trip there, that picture of us. He was going to start his chemotherapy, and I'd lived in America for a long, long time, and my mum and dad had never visited. They'd always put it off. It's too expensive. It's too this. It's too that. And I just think you always think you've got time to do things. And there's always, oh, we'll do it next year, or, you know, at some point we'll get out and see you. And they never did. And so, unfortunately, in that picture there, he'd already had his diagnosis. And I flew him and my mum out to see me in America. And we had a lovely holiday, 3 weeks out there. And I just thought, why does it take, like, an illness like this for you to start making memories? And that's all we had, you know, and I feel grateful that we had 6 months where I knew he wasn't going to be around, and we were able to create some lovely memories together. And I started seeing him as Ken, like a person, not my dad. And actually looking at him and talking to him and just having conversations that I would never have had with him had he not been diagnosed. So actually, you can find joy, but there's not a lot of joy when someone's got a terminal.
But it must also have been difficult.
It was really difficult, you know, so it's bittersweet, really. I can't say it was the most joyful time, but we definitely made the most of it, which we were lucky to do. But no, it's devastating.
I think we can have all sorts of ideas, can't we, of how we'd respond and how we would be, and then, you know, I had such fixed ideas. As you know, many of you know my beautiful friend Hannah, who has breast cancer and has been charging away at it for, like, 11 years now. And, you know, things are really not great at the moment. And when she got her final, when she was told about her next stage for her treatment, we were all desperate to see each other. There's 4 of us, and it was like, so I got us this place, and just for one night. And, you know, I was imagining, oh, God, what will this be like? What will we be talking about? What? Because it was big news that she'd had. And actually, it was just like it always is.
Yeah.
We were laughing, we slobbed about, watched a bit of telly, ate, you know, overate.
But that was probably great for her as well, because I think so much of your life then becomes defined by...
That's what she says.
Medication and appointments.
So boring,
So having a bit of normality.
Yeah, she's so boring. All the appointments, all that. Everybody wants to talk to you about it. And I've always said that one of the most beautiful things about Hannah is she jumps into a pool of joy. So there might be so much terrible stuff around, but if there's a pool, she'll jump in it, and then she's in it totally, you know. And even when we've been in consulting rooms with her, me and the girls, and like she's been given yet another bit of awful news, it's not like it is in the movies. It's really not. And I keep thinking, you know, you'd expect somebody gets devastating news and everyone falls to pieces and cries, but there might be a moment of that. But then it's getting back on with life. OK, you know, who's going to pick up the kids, and are we going to have time for a bit of lunch? And you know, and it's been such a revelation to me that to be so close to.
I remember when I mean, Scott's told this story, but when Barbara got her diagnosis of Alzheimer's, the first thing she did, she leaned over to Scott and she went, "I'm so sorry."
Oh.
Because she knew what was coming for him, you know, because she was obviously still very much aware at the time, but she knew that it was going to be a difficult path for him, which I thought was such an incredible comment. You know, she didn't think about herself, she thought about him.
Which is so like that, those two.
Yeah.
But he was amazing.
Oh, he is.
I mean, he was just... Their whole house was adapted to suit, you know, that he had a big whiteboard because she would eventually get quite confused about where she was. She sometimes thought she was in her childhood home in Stoke Newington. So then she started to not realise who he was. So then when he walked in, she was a bit...
And I suppose that time you're shifting how you respond, like you have with your mum, haven't you?
Yeah. Oh,
like you learn to, like,
no, at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, no, Mum, no, that's not right." And then I thought, shut up, and I just go with it. So wherever her mind is taking her, I just go with it. And it's fascinating, actually.
Yeah, it definitely affects the whole family. Yeah. Well, we're sending all of our love to Fiona and her family, and also, you know, huge admiration for laying the story out there. And I'm sure there will be joyful parts and difficult parts, and for other people who are going through a similar experience, it's always good to know that you're not on your own.